Hello, YouTube. It's a real American Brian, and I'm not alone. I have another guest. My good friend Brian came on to be a bit of an expert on the subject here. As the title said, we're talking about GI Joe manga. Is that even a thing? We're going to find out. Brian has his own YouTube channel, French Toast Chopsticks, where he discusses all kinds of manga books. So I brought him on to help me dive into this little Arashikage Showdown manga. How's it going, Brian?
It's going great. Thank you for having me.
No problem. I want to have all my friends on eventually. So you are the.
Oh, you only have what, two more then?
Yeah, I'm running out, but we'll get through there. But having you on, I thought this was the perfect book for you with the manga connection and your channel, and which I will link to in the description below. So go and subscribe to that and watch
Or
all
don't.
the videos on the manga hauls. I don't know. I find it pretty interesting, and I don't really get into manga too much. But you are here as the manga expert, so be prepared. So what do we have? We're looking at Arashikage Showdown. So this was put out during the Devil's Due era of GI Joe. Josh Blaylock, I believe, wrote it. Yes, he wrote it and was president of Devil's Due at the time. It is listed as a volume 1, and throughout the story, I think it definitely feels like there were intentions to do a lot more, but this was it. I couldn't find any reason for it ending at volume 1 on the internet. So if you have any details on that, please share. I don't know if it just didn't sell very well at all, or if Josh was focusing his energy on other books, because they were doing several different titles at the time. So who knows?
It's kind of a shame. I actually, spoiler, enjoyed it. So
yeah, which I don't know, I'll get to my feelings on that too, but it almost hurt the book a little bit, me going into it knowing this was the only one. But yeah, so we got Snake Eyes on the cover. So what was your first impression when I gave it to you? You have Snake Eyes, you have manga.
The first impression was, why is this not reading like a manga from back to front?
Yes.
And I was almost going to read it back to front as a goof, but I decided not to. The other impression was, it is of a higher quality paper than most manga I read. Most manga is basically one step above newsprint.
Yeah.
And this feels like a much higher quality paper. It's like one of the things comics does is they spend so much money on the paper, whereas manga just put it on pulp, just get it out there. So I bet you this is more expensive to produce than most manga.
Yeah. So one of my questions was, for you, was I've been looking at this as manga inspired.
Yeah.
Does it have to be from Japan to be manga, or can you have an American manga?
It depends who you ask. The true weebs go, it's only manga if it comes from the manga region of France. Otherwise, it's sparkling white manga.
Of course, yes.
Because there are different genres. There's manhwa, which is Korean manga, and there's other terms like that. But no, it's manga. The art style and everything. The interesting thing is, it feels more inspired by manga than trying to be manga to me. The art style. It looks like someone who doesn't. They did not have a manga, or a mangaka is the proper term for a manga creator. A mangaka do the art.
Okay.
Which I think would have been more interesting. Although I did appreciate their take on manga art style, but it's a little clumsy at times.
Yeah, it definitely was like leaning that way, but I see where you're saying there. And you have the size of the book, you have it's in black and white. A lot of the similarities, but then it does read left to right.
And maybe that's because what time period are we talking about? 90s?
Early
2000s?
Early 2000s, I think.
Because manga didn't really get crazy probably until like 10 years ago, I would say. And maybe they were afraid of doing a traditional back to front, right to left would have thrown people. It's so much so that even most manga have a little cheat sheet on the back that says how to read it.
Yeah.
Even in current manga. So my guess is there were probably a lot of manga produced like this at that time for the Western audience.
Said 2005.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense.
But I know there's a big thing with like when they reverse mangas to make them read properly, and that's like looked down upon, which I understand because you have to mess with the art and how panels are laid out. But if it was
here's the weird thing,
done it from the beginning.
The light novels, which is like their novelization mangas, read left to right, front to back. They don't switch it up. This is sort of like the reason they do it the way they is because sort of like how the weebs that insist on only subtitles because they appreciate the original Japanese voice actors. It's pretentious bullshit. I think 90% of it. And even some of the mangas it's even makes less sense because they almost go to a webtoon style where it's just 4 panels top to bottom.
Yeah, so if you're doing that, I mean, there's no reason not
doesn't
to.
matter. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I appreciate. Sometimes I haven't read a lot of manga, but when I have, I do get mixed up a little bit sometimes trying to read it. So I did appreciate that this being left to right, and maybe because it was a very American brand, and they knew their most of the audience. I mean, it released in English, and was going to be most of their audience is going to be.
But I did a little research, and there is actually other manga, GI Joe manga by other people, because Hasbro will license it to anyone who gives them money.
Okay.
So there are some more current ones, and there's some like manga inspired GI Joe statues that are popular and things like that. So it does have a bit of an Eastern audience, specifically the ninja stuff. But yeah,
I thought that was an appropriate place to start, was with the ninja story. But I think there's a lot of potential there to do some different things. But yeah, I think we've talked about the intro enough. Let's dive into this thing.
Yo, Joe, talking comics. Here's your host. It's A Real American Brian.
All right, so we have Arashikage Showdown. Had to get my camera a little closer for the smaller book here, so that's fun. But you mentioned before we started recording, there's 4 different artists on this, and I think we can tell as we go through the book. I didn't notice that at first. I just thought it was kind of.
I didn't notice at first, so I flipped past it, but I noticed like the art style gets different, and
yeah,
I think so. Whoever did the backgrounds is different from the ones that did the characters, I think.
Yeah, that definitely maybe. I think some of the characters even change where it's early in the story is easier to tell some of the characters part, which was one of my big complaints. But 1095 when it came out in 2005, so that's fun. Printed in Canada.
Wow. 10.9. That is that's a lot of mangas are $9.99 now.
Okay.
So they got to pay that license.
Yes, so
Hasbro's got to get their coin.
And I'm not sure like what the distribution was on this, and be interested to learn more about that. If it was just going to comic stores, or I'm not sure what this other stuff here is, or if it was showing up in places. I don't know. But we get right into the story. Opening page, and you have a bunch of kids going on a little school trip to
the Ninja Museum.
Yeah,
I wish we had a Ninja Museum.
Yeah, and then in the middle of their trip, a ninja pops out of the floor and scares the crap out of everybody. It sounds like an awesome field trip to me, but it's just an old man dressed as a ninja. Ha ha ha! Good joke.
Yeah, you notice he pops out and he's kind of ripped, and then they show him it's kind of just a fat old man.
Yeah,
I gotcha.
Yep. Then we have our 2 dastardly villains here, and they're starting to explore and tearing up the floor and stealing some sacred object. I don't think they tell us what it is at this point. Yeah. So
I do like the lore of the world where ninjas could just be any dude. Like they're not all just always dressed like Snake Eyes or Storm Shadow. Sometimes they're wearing khakis and a polo.
Yeah. The one thing that I did always thought was funny, though, is you have ninjas that jump out in their gis and everything, and then the ninjas that are in jeans and shirts have no problem at all just like keeping up with them. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. like
these jeans are very restrictive.
Right.
Maybe they're those jean leggings, jeggings.
It's possible. Yeah. But then our bad guys here kill the old man that popped out of the floor. So
the violence took me back. Then I remembered the comic is far more violent than the cartoon ever was.
Yes, for sure. But this is something I really appreciate. So that kind of sets the tone, and it's like a cold open for the story. I always like it when comics and books do this, and then you have a big title page.
Like a James Bond intro.
Yeah, I don't know why I enjoy that so much, but I always do. And then as he's talking to scroll away, we see the Arashikage symbol there. And a little mention of Black Lotus tipped poison there. Black Lotus always makes me think of Magic the Gathering now.
Yes.
Which is sad, but that's what it is. And then we switch over and we start introducing some Joes.
I thought it was, when I first saw this panel, I thought it was Duke.
Yeah, so this this takes place in the Devil's Due continuity. I'm pretty confident with that. I don't think there's anything that would take it out of that continuity. I mean, Kamakura and everything seems to be taking place in that. So we have Snake Eyes with some heavy plastic surgery, so we can see his face. But yeah, so we do get a little bit of the styling of like the manga with Scarlett. Definitely not the traditional American comic look,
but it's still not quite Japanese style. It's like like I said, it looks like someone's imitating manga style.
Yeah, kind of tipping their toes in the pool, but
yeah,
not quite going all in.
The eyes are big, but they're not obscenely big.
Right. And I always appreciate this. It's like this could be somebody's first GI Joe comic, so you're introducing the characters, which I kind of needed it here because they look a little bit different. So
yeah, and some I didn't know, like Nunchuck, who has a ponytail. I didn't know who he was.
Yeah, well, just him being in a story is kind of unique. Like he didn't get a whole lot of time.
And his apprentice guy, do I remember him from when he became Snake Eyes?
Well, yes and no. So his apprentice is in the Devil's Due continuity. He's Kamakura. It is the same person, Sean Collins, but in the Real American Hero continuity, he was never Kamakura. He never was the apprentice, but he does become Snake Eyes.
Okay, that's because yeah.
Yeah,
he got his head burned in a Techno Viper helmet. I thought that was cool.
Yep, very conveniently at the precise moment. But one of my initial things, like so early in the book, that took me back was like Scarlett not really acting like Scarlett. Like it wasn't really in character for what Scarlett normally is in the books. But most of the Devil's Due things, Scarlett was a little bit different.
She seems more casual and fun-loving in this.
Yeah, and I guess it's something else to look at. I haven't done a full read-through of the Devil's Due story arc yet, but I do plan on doing that on the channel, reading through all those issues. But I do know that one of the things, the relationship between Snake Eyes and Scarlett, like he left her at the altar and there's like a lot of drama there. So this must take place before that, at least, because she's on the back of his bike. But yeah, so I thought that was kind of weird. Like Scarlett not really acting like Scarlett. She's acting like, I don't know, like a young girl. More than anything.
Not a seasoned vet.
Right. And I have another comment on being a seasoned vet later in the book too. Then we pull up on a car on the side of the road, and we're introduced and find out that it is Jinx and Nunchuck. So Jinx is looking very different than we normally see her. But
now in the comics, does she look more like she did in the cartoon with kind of the butch haircut and
wearing all red most of the time?
Yeah, and blind fighter, right? Because in the cartoon, she fights blindfolded.
Yeah, I don't know if they talked about that in the comic as much.
Because I remember when Beachhead was being an asshole to her in the cartoon because he refused to let her cover her eyes.
Right.
And she sucked at fighting with her eyes open.
Yeah, I always like seeing Jinx pop up. She doesn't pop up as much in the comic. I mean, she does have a very recent run, and like leading up to 300, she's in a big story arc there. But normally we don't see a whole lot of her, so I thought that was really cool. Nunchuck, on the other hand, I mean, throughout this whole story, I feel like we could have just erased him.
Yeah, he doesn't need to be. Well, he gets injured and he comes back, and yeah.
But again, just having a Nunchuck is another character you don't see that often, so it's kind of cool to have him. I always like, because I mean, you have like 300 Joes to choose from. It's nice to get some of those.
They're thinking like, who has a vaguely Asian sounding type background?
Right. Then we see the trunk of Jinx.
That's the other thing I noticed is super high detail in some of the art that you don't see in manga, because it's all, we got to get this out to keep it cheap.
This is almost like a borderline Kirby-esque.
Yeah, it's like you see detail the more you look at it, and it's like, that's cool, but was that wasted effort? Yeah,
it was pretty neat. And then right here, I got a little excited, so I'll ask, what about Tommy? All right, so I get my boy in this story too.
Yep,
ready to go.
How funny is it that now is Tommy his real name, or is that just his Americanish name he uses?
It is his real name. So his name is Tommy Arashikage, and Arashikage translates into Storm Shadow, which is a little confusing because the whole clan is. But he is the young.
And I didn't know he was cousins with Jinx.
Yeah, it's not. I think that was on the file cards, but it's not something that's really talked about too much. But in here, like they mention it multiple times, which is pretty cool. But but you know, he is a traitorous cousin of hers at this point, so he's still a bad
But
guy.
is he?
Yeah, I don't know. I really like the free-spirited Storm Shadow that kind of goes where he needs to go and does his own thing. So I always
He uses Cobra. He's not so much loyal to him.
Yeah,
He
for
uses
sure.
them for his own means.
Yep, absolutely. And that's what I really like. And so I always hate it when it's like, oh, he's the bad guy. Like,
No,
well, is
he's
he
an
though?
anti-hero.
Yeah. He has his own agenda. It's fine. But then we pile back into the car and a bike and we go off to Japan. And this then we skip over to Chicago. And I don't know how many pages this is, but I don't feel like it needed to be there at all. It just seems silly to me.
You know, like, hey, I want to put some dreadnoughts in here or whatever.
Right. So we have the dreadnoughts and heavy duty here. Heavy duty stopped or ran into them doing something. It's not even super clear.
Well, and he's
But
playing
really-
possum, like he let himself get captured for some reason.
Yeah. I mean, the whole little Chicago arc, all it really does is get us to this point where Kamakura gets a text message and heads to Japan.
Like it was clearly a B plot that probably would have been expanded upon in a second volume. That never happened.
Definitely very possible. I think this is a very like self-contained story, but there's a lot of story threads that aren't tied up that could have led to future volumes.
I really like how they drew Zorana though. I think she looks really good.
Yeah, she's pretty cool looking in this. But I'm glad she introduced herself early, which is kind of a thing in Joe comics. Like the characters always say each other's names, which I kind of needed it again because she looks different than normal. But I was like, oh, awesome. Zorana. I'm down for that. And heavy duty, you know, I wasn't quite sure until it was mentioned. But
I like how Kamakura just punched her and knocked her out in one hit.
Yeah, well, he's a ninja.
In training.
Yeah. But he got so that was another thing. I have a lot of problems with that character, which I plan on doing a whole video on at some point. But his training
Why Brian hates Kamakura?
or Sean Collins, Sean Broca, all of it, like that guy. But his training was super short, and then they gave him the tattoo like almost immediately. And oh, you're good, you're a ninja. Like, are you though? Because we go back earlier in the Real American Hero series, and it took Snake Eyes years before he was given the tattoo. But Kamakura is like, oh, I got a few months in of ninja training, I'm good, give me the tattoo.
Maybe he's just really good. He skips some levels.
But then they do the same thing for Don Moreno too later in the book. Like, she gets very little training, gets his memories. Oh, let's give you a tattoo on your shoulder, not on your arm where everybody else has. Very weird.
But maybe it's slightly different, and instead of saying I'm a ninja, it says I like fat chicks or something. They just play a joke on them.
It's possible. But so this is some good 2005 technology. He had a smartwatch at this point.
They're predicting the future, just like Star Trek.
Yep. And this, I wish this was the look for the whole book for Kamakura. I did get mixed up later on, where I would have to like flip back a page, like, who was that? Like, was that this guy or that guy? And I'll kind of point that out when we get to
it. And his headgear really kind of, he's got that. It makes it different enough. Yeah.
Yeah. But like when they stop shading it so much, like I'm looking for the eyebrow pieces.
Yep.
Like that's the only difference between like him and some of the other ninjas. So then we get to Japan, and you know, everyone's chilling, just waiting for stuff to go down. They're talking about this scroll that was stolen, and I don't think they're talking about the kata yet. But so basically, you're setting up your whole big mystery here that they're going to solve, and you have Snake Eyes here making facial expressions, which is still weird, rather than being masked. But he doesn't talk still, so he still has that going for him. And
so what's Nunchuck's deal? What's his specialty? Is it nunchucks?
You know, it's not super clear.
Is he a martial artist, or because he just looks like a guy with a ponytail to me?
He is a ninja. He came out with the ninja force during all the big neon era of the GI Joes. So he had the super bright costumes that make no sense at all for ninjas. But I don't really remember a whole lot of what his deal was.
Oh, I just realized what Jinx is supposed to look like. She looks like the Major in Ghost in the Shell.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah,
like
the hair for sure.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, she doesn't have her glasses on here. I guess those are just her car driving glasses. Then we get this cool 2-page spread, a big explosion blowing up. I guess it was Jinx's apartment, I think.
Yeah, I like when he opens the people and there's just a sword in it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Arm yourselves. It doesn't matter. We're going to blow the whole damn wall apart.
yeah. Well, I have someone. The guy at the people probably died.
Uh, Possibly. I mean, he didn't have the furniture keeping him safe like all
That's
the
right.
Joes here did. But yeah, it's not very ninja-like attack here, blowing up a giant wall. But
I do like ninjas that use guns, though. That's cool.
yeah, I mean that's what made Snake Eyes so awesome, right? The ninja
Yeah,
with
the
a
Uzi.
Yeah. But we get some awesome ninja fighting here. We don't know who the ninjas are yet, but they all are wearing the same outfit and come in. We see Scarlett kicking some butt. Scarlett and Jinx. Oh, here's Nunchuck doing a little tackle, I guess. Yeah, his whole fighting style doesn't even seem very ninja-like compared to the others.
He's kind of a barroom brawler.
Yeah. Which is interesting, but and I guess Snake Eyes is carrying his sword around somewhere. I didn't see it anywhere up to this point. But there's some pretty, like, here we go, breaking a ninja's neck, sneaking up behind him.
Yeah.
Oh, right here. We got, is that
I like when he
Jinx or-
slices the sleeve up and like, oh, he's got the tattoo.
See, and this is one of my complaints. Like, I kept getting, like, so this is Jinx, right?
Yeah.
But I kept getting the characters mixed up, and I really think I understand why the book is black and white. But if
Yeah.
it were in color, I wouldn't have had that problem at all.
Yeah.
And I think like so many of the joke, like if this continued on to multiple volumes, I think it would have continued to be a problem because so many of the Joes have very similar outfits.
Well,
Like,
and they
you
all
need
wear
that-
like military-esque garb. So yeah,
yeah.
you get to mix them up.
So you need that like color variance. But right here, like close up, just blowing his face off. That's pretty brutal. And then
Shoving him
Snake Eyes
into
gets his
the
sleeve ripped.
onto the stove. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. But of course he gets his sleeve ripped. We have to expose that tattoo there.
Mm-hmm.
And the fight continues, and this is pretty awesome too. Right?
Yep.
That was a bit more adult, bit more intense, pretty cool. But then he sees the tattoo and he's like, oh shit, we screwed up. Like we don't mess with the Arashikage. We're cool with each other. And Scarlett and Snake Eyes or Scarlett is speaking to and for Snake Eyes, as she does. But they tie him up and try to get some more information, and turns out he's also looking to protect this scroll for his ninja clan, the Amakana clan, because it was like a joint partnership to protect this scroll because of the power that it has. And it's just a plot device really to continue the story, but it works. Oh, here's one of my favorite or most memorable scenes for sure.
The sushi guy that pees his pants.
So they're explaining the whole history, and then there's a knock at the door, and it's a guy delivering sushi, and you got so is this Jinx? Yeah.
So wait a
Jinx.
second. So you see the sushi guy has a sword. Was he the one in the peephole?
I think he was. So
Because they blew out the wall, not the door. So he was standing there during this whole fight.
Yeah, just hearing all these bullets.
I just realized that now that he was the one at the door.
Yeah, I didn't notice that either. So I assumed the first time I read, I assumed it was like a toy prop sword, but I didn't think about the peephole thing.
Yeah.
But Scarlett here, definitely, this is not military training here, holding
Shooting it like a gangsta.
Yeah.
I like that they on the next page. I like how they feel bad that they made him pee his pants.
Yeah, they scared him, and you see the pee puddle. This is like my favorite panel of the whole book, which is silly and dumb, but.
And then he drops the sushi in the urine.
Yes, no, it's wasted too. And his toy sword.
Yep.
And then they're all like, or Nunchuck says, oops, and they're all sorry. So such a silly thing at the end of a fight, but I love it. Like, and then they're interrogating him, and someone blows away their hostage. Sniper. Which this was like another like plot thread I thought could be developed a bit more. The idea of the sniper and what was going on here. And
Did they ever explain? I can't remember if they even explained who killed him.
I'm not sure. I kind of forget. When I first read it, I kind of assumed that it was going to be Firefly. Like,
Yeah.
he did it, and they were going to bring him into the story.
Can you imagine if they had Firefly in this and then they're all wearing their ninja costume? Like, who's who?
Well, he would have camo, so we would
Yeah.
see the camo pattern, so we'd be able to tell him apart. But then we get back into the history and lore of the ninja clans, which is cool. And Snake Eyes somewhere had his helmet too, I guess, in his pocket. I don't know, but he's going to pull it out.
Nanotechnology.
Yeah, absolutely. He's going to leave that tattoo exposed, though. So then we get this guy that isn't very flattering in this panel. I'm glad that wasn't his body shape throughout the rest of it. But we see him in his like high rise and getting all this food delivered, how generous he is. And then finally we say his name. Oh, it's Tommy. Like, oh, all right. So now we're introducing Storm Shadow to the story.
I think he's eating
living the high
what
life.
is considered American style sushi. A lot of the
Is it?
rolls and stuff is very American.
Is it?
Yeah.
So you have the American artist pretending to draw manga style and pretending to know more about sushi.
I really like the stereotypical waiter here.
Yeah. Yeah. Very happy to please.
So little breakfast at Tiffany's going on there.
He's talking about with one of the other room service guys, I guess, about how well Tommy tips, and which is cool. And then finally we see the Storm Shadow gear, which is kind of the Devil's Due style Storm Shadow gear, which I think was the same as the Valor versus Venom toy line, I believe, but a little bit different than the traditional stuff. But
again, I really like the backgrounds, like they're driving the motorcycle.
Yeah,
I think that looks really good.
A lot of work put into that there. And this, I mean, how I noticed this too when I was reading through it, which is such a little trivial thing, but I noticed it. Like, how far off the road did they have to drive to get back here? Because this fence doesn't have an opening in it. So they must have
They're taking their
pulled
Toyota
off.
Super off-road a little bit.
Yeah, well, I guess here we can see it's off-road. Oh, there's the beginning of the fence. Never mind. There's the answer to my question.
Yeah,
so the fence
it's all
begins
there.
up here, and they pulled out up there. But now we start getting the traditional Joe outfits. So Scarlett's geared up, Snake Eyes. Yeah, and what happens to his sunglasses, I don't know. But we're putting his
And
mask
were you
on.
like, what the hell? Who the hell's who at this point?
Yeah, so this starts getting a little confusing sometimes, which I've already got confused earlier with Jinx and Scarlett. But yeah, very similar outfits. We just have the shoulder pads. Again, if it was in color, wouldn't be a problem at all. But I understand why it's black and white. Just gets a little confusing. And this is fun. I don't even understand what kind of grass
They lifted up the sod.
Yeah, but we hid the very expensive, fancy James Bond-esque car. Then we have our crew here. So Jinx with the mask on. Now I can definitely tell her and Scarlett apart with the mask on. And
Nunchuck just looks stupid.
Yeah, without color, he just looks. I mean, even with color, he looks goofy.
Yeah.
Without color, he just looks even more confusing. Like, he almost looks like he's on Tiger Force or something. And then Scarlett, I know what you're thinking. You always do, Scarlett. You always know what Snake Eyes is thinking.
Do you think Snake Eyes is always mad at Scarlett because she's misrepresenting him constantly?
Probably. Like, oh, this woman, I think she's in my head again. Right, and finally, here we go. Sticking up for your cousin. Tommy's a lot of things, but we can't assume he's our traitor. Really? A few pages earlier, you called him a traitor, but now we can't assume that? Okay.
She had a change of heart.
Yeah. So then we're
again some more really good looking backgrounds.
Yeah, like this whole thing, like the temple hidden in the woods. Very cool. Very cool. So this is the temple of the clan that blew up her apartment. So they're coming here for some answers. And I don't know, I thought this was kind of cool. The very like kung fu movie type element to it, where there's just this mirror sitting here and they have to like solve this riddle.
It's like a puzzle. Yep.
Yeah, of the mirror.
Oh, and Scarlett can't look at it.
Yes, Scarlett can't see what Snake Eyes is about to do, so she has to be blindfolded because only the Arashikage can see the kata.
But since she knows what Snake Eyes is thinking, she's knowing what he's doing.
which I am not super well informed. I'm probably saying some of these things wrong with martial arts and kata, but what I do know is from Karate Kid. And Mr. Miyagi's kata is very different than what Snake Eyes is doing.
We didn't see Mr. Miyagi do a double flip on
No.
upstairs.
No, not at all. So he's flipping around, putting all these moves together. And they mentioned that once it's begun, it can't be interrupted. You have to complete the whole thing. But when he completes it, it brings him right back to, wow, this went on for several pages. It brings him right back to the mirror, but he can't
This
stop.
is a weird one because it is so many pages of him doing this.
Yeah, like this.
Dancing and flipping.
This is a very elaborate thing here. Like all these panels of him just jumping around. Like, yeah, it was something. I think we probably could have shortened that up a little bit. This is a pretty cool panel, though. I like that pose. But he gets brought back to the mirror, but he can't stop. Oh, here. And Scott, what's happening? What? Didn't you have that question? Did she ask you that? Because she's been blindfolded for like 10 minutes now as he's jumping all over the place. I guess that makes sense. But he can't stop, so he has to punch through the mirror, because I guess that's the next part of the kata, is throwing all these punches at whatever's in front of you. Bloody knuckles. Oh, all clear, Scarlett. You can look again. So silly. But his kata and destroying the mirror cracks open this whole little stairway, and there's a giant hole that they all fall or jump through, but land. I don't know what. Somehow they got down there, and it's like a underground temple. And then they notice a medallion in the dragon's hand, which is the next plot point to continuing on. But then they noticed that it was all a ruse, and this ninja clan was actually just letting them unlock the whole thing, and now they're trapped. So
They didn't think that through very well.
No. And as ninjas do, the first thing you do is you pull out all your guns and start blasting away.
Yep. You one hand, like a nunchuck here, you one hand your assault rifle.
Yeah, it's always a wise move. Yeah.
Increase your accuracy.
Yeah. And then the ninjas up top throw down a smoke bomb, I guess. Oh, I guess they don't want to destroy the medallion. Otherwise, you would just throw down like a grenade. Yeah, so the power of the sun goddess is what we're after here. More ninja fighting.
They hit him with a sleep bomb, right?
Yeah, so some kind of sleep smoke, whatever. And they must have been prepared for it when they rappelled down. Then, I guess this is an important scene because we see the exposed arm again. You would think like this is supposed to be like a secret ninja clan thing. You would just like cover up your forearm a little more.
Yep.
But we expose it, so now we know who it is in theory. Do we know who it is? We have little eyebrow spots. That's what I'm looking for.
Yep.
Here. So it's Kamakura finally responding to his text message and comes in and saves the day. So he takes on the whole clan there.
Maybe Kamakura had to keep it exposed because he still got that lotion on it because it's healing.
It's possible. He hasn't got, what is the new wrap they put on everything?
It's the same stuff they use for burn victims and stuff. Yeah.
That was, I've only had that once, but it was amazing.
Yeah, it's great.
It changed the healing process.
Yeah, I actually bought some off Amazon.
Yeah. So then we have Snake Eyes and his apprentice,
Or sometimes you can tell who's fighting and sometimes you can't. It's all just ninjas.
Ninjas fighting ninjas. Oh, and then I'm going to get confused again because she's pulling her mask off. Like, I need you to keep your mask on so I know you apart. And Nunchuck is bleeding to death, and we're cool with it.
I'm cool with it.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't really, in this story anyway, didn't really give us a reason to care about them too much. But then they walk all the way out of the woods. take the grass carpet off of Jinx's car and roll on back with Nunchuck bleeding to death in her passenger seat, I guess.
Yeah, two-seater sports car is not great for operations. You can only bring one person. Everyone else has got to pile onto the motorcycle.
Yeah.
Wait, how did Kamakura? What did he ride in on?
Bam. That's what he wrote.
Oh, that's right. That's right. It was a plot point. He got a combo box.
Yeah, so he got a little piece of shit Civic or something, and like they spend like a page and a half making fun of him.
Nice car, loser.
I'm not sure was super necessary, but okay. And then they enter the cabin, and maybe I can help you, cousin. So Storm Shadow's here.
Sitting at what looks like the Resolute desk from the White House.
Yeah, I mean that's I guess this was still part of this clan's or something. I thought they left. Well, they got in the car, right? I don't know where the hell they are.
Was Snake Eyes straight up gonna kill him right there if they didn't tell him to wait?
He looks like he's ready, and this sword is not right at all.
Because sometimes they get along, right? I mean, we don't know what led up to this.
Well, they're sword brothers, so they are on opposite sides sometimes, but they always have this very strong bond. So I don't know. Maybe he's just being super protective of Scarlett at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Or well, I guess not, because he's coming pretty aggressively straight at Storm Shadow. So maybe not. And Storm Shadow again, as ninjas do, block the sword, pull out your gun.
Yep. Yeah, in the cartoon, I don't think Jinx ever used firearms. She was always just using ninja weapons.
Yeah, I mean sounds about right. She had a lot more cartoon time than comic time too.
Yeah, because they introduced her. Was that in the movie?
Yeah.
It was like her and Chuckles and
Sarge and his Marauder or Renegades, I guess, in the movie.
Tunnel Rat, I think too.
Yep, Tunnel Rat was new in the movie. And then, of course, all the stupid Cobra Law stuff. But we don't talk about that.
No.
So then Storm Shadow defended himself, and apparently no one else got in the fight. I always love that in movies, TV shows, where everything's a one-on-one fight.
Yep. Well, he said ninjas have that honor thing.
Yeah. Storm Shadow never got out of his chair. That's a pretty badass move there.
Yep.
I held them all off from that. Yeah, so I don't even remember what we're doing here.
Here's an elevator that doesn't exist in the real world. We're not just hanging by ropes in a giant empty shaft.
Not even ropes, one rope.
One rope, yeah.
One single rope.
Hope they don't go start swinging.
This was another ninja clan that was introduced. That's what we were looking at.
Yeah, the way I look at the ninja stuff, like I like Storm Shadow, I like Snake Eyes, but when it starts getting into this clan, that clan, it's like, I don't care. I only care about the couple ninjas I like.
Yeah. I mean, I'm okay with it. I was enjoying all of the mythology and everything that was being built here. But it does definitely get a little confusing when you start introducing too many clans. Like, I'd rather keep it like one or two clans, like one versus one. But here we go. We have to get in practice of making sure the eyebrow things is comical.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
There's this panel where there's three ninjas, and I'm like, who are these guys?
And they climb up the window. Oh, here we go. He's going to die because he dropped one of his suction cups, but Snake Eyes is there to save him. Thank goodness. Dumb apprentice.
They gave him a tattoo. You think if you earned the tattoo, you wouldn't drop your suction cup.
Right. I mean, you just need that to live. It's fine.
Yep.
Then fighting the clan here, and he's talking crap about Storm Shadow, calling him the black sheep of the Arashikage. Not completely true. Now,
did they do a setup to make this guy out to be a badass? I'm not familiar with him.
I'm outside of this story, I'm not super familiar with him, but I mean, just them building up to him, it felt that way because he's like standing up here with his whole clan at the top of this building. So they're kind of setting him up to be the big bad of this chapter anyway. and he is the one that stole the medallion from them when they fell through the hole. So I don't know if his character existed before this in the Devil's Due stuff. I haven't read too deep into that yet. It's quite possible.
Oh, he was confident because he thought he had the jewel's power.
Yes, the sun god power. I don't think he really understood how to unlock it, but he thought he did, and that whole thing. You dishonor not only my clan, but your own as well. Dishonor. So crazy. Then, oh, look at this. Storm Shadow has a fancy hilt with a secret button that unlocks the power of the medallion. But it's not really the power of the medallion. It's just this big explosive thing that was planted in there.
Yeah, so is the medallion just a MacGuffin and it's that scroll thing that matters? I was a little confused. Yeah.
So, and it really didn't even need to exist at all. There's another weird plot point where we kind of like, which I guess it makes the story more interesting that it's not completely linear, but kind of takes you off track a little bit sometimes. I'm not sure.
It's not a pearl. It's a little explosive, and he just fucking blew him up.
Yeah. And I don't know what they're busting through here. Did they come through a glass? Oh, I guess
in Japan, all their walls are paper.
Well, the windows that they were climbing up the suction cups, I guess.
Yeah.
And there's no frame on them. This was just the biggest bay window in a skyscraper ever.
Poor Snake Eyes with two Uzis just clattering together, hanging on his shoulder.
Yeah.
That seems like dangerous for misfires.
No, it's fine. I mean, he's well trained. He's got it down.
I like that he's just a little smudge on the ground now, the guy.
Then we have all of our hero ninjas coming in and killing all the scrub ninjas from this clan.
They should give them jerseys with numbers so it's easier to track who's who.
Right.
Like borrow Bazooka's football jersey.
That'd be so much easier. And I always love it when you have two ninjas fighting back to back. Like, how could you ever defeat that?
No. And I like how they don't have guns when they'd be very useful, but have them every now and then.
Yeah, and we have a couple of things going on here that kind of annoy me a little bit. First, the ridiculousness of this whole scenario.
Yeah, you have 30 rounds in an Uzi.
Yeah.
Not a million.
And he's also doing it left-handed, which I guess accuracy is not a big issue because he's just doing a big circle on the floor and whatever. It's silly, but
technically an Uzi is going to fire 9mm. It probably would not penetrate the floor.
Right, you'd be there for a while.
Yeah, and reloading constantly.
Then we got him going gangster style with his Uzi too.
Yep, there he is.
Where's your military training, Snake Eyes? Come on.
It's like he forgets he has his Uzi sometimes, so that's what his sword's for.
Yeah.
The best is the stairwell. Who the hell is who? Snake Eyes is easy to find.
Yeah.
Oh, but there's a little eye armor thing, so you know that's
eyebrow. You have to look pretty close. Some of these, eyebrows, Kamakura. Then we have shoulder pads and goofy stuff for Storm Shadow. But some of the just headshots of Kamakura and Storm Shadow is very difficult. Like I had to flip back a page to figure out who was who. Like right here, I mean, I would cut that off. Like that's the same guy.
And I like that Snake Eyes just straight up murders the rent-a-cops at the building.
And this whole maneuver, I mean, I'm not going to doubt Snake Eyes. He's a badass, but this doesn't seem like the wisest decision here.
It seems like it's fine until you land face first on the stairs.
Right. Because you can't catch yourself because you have an Uzi in each hand.
Yeah. And he just had all that work done on his face.
And probably tax dollars repairing his face too.
Yeah.
What a waste.
That's our money, Snake Eyes.
But he takes out all 4 or 5 of the rent-a-cop security guards in the stairwell there.
But they wing him. That's more than the best Cobra Troopers can do.
Is this guy picking his nose?
Yes, he is.
All right, cool. I guess that's what you do when you work in a cubicle. I don't know. I've never.
But it sets the precedent that there's also just normal dudes here as well, that like those rent-a-cops that he just murders.
And I mean, yeah, they're just here at work in their office space, and a couple of ninjas come blasting through their door, falling on the ground.
And just shout, "Guns! Get out of here!"
And Snake Eyes got wounded or hurt somehow in this crazy.
Well, no,
stunt.
the Rent-A-Cops got him when he was falling down the stairs.
Oh,
They
okay.
winged him.
Oh, that's right. And he just kept going through it. like
That's
a
why I said the
giant
Rent-A-Cops do better than Cobra never hits him.
person. Right. Yeah. And then we have Kamakura here. I'm pretty sure he rolled up his sleeve on purpose to show this off.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, and that's a fun bend to the arm. Not quite sure how that works, but
Maybe he broke it, but it's going to get healed soon.
and we have a flood of more of ninjas and rent-a-cops.
They've taken cover behind durable cubicle walls.
Yes.
When we just saw Snake Eyes shoot through the floor.
Yeah, we could shoot through a floor, but this cubicle wall, I'm good. I don't know how many hundreds of dudes there are here surrounding our 4 ninjas, but it's not looking good. And Kamakura is ready to go down for the clan. But of course, we don't get there because giant explosion, the whole building blows up. And kind of blackout ninjas laying on the ground. What the hell just happened? It's all a mystery. We need to find out.
They used the ultimate trope. How did they survive? Magic.
Yeah.
That conniving, the jewel.
He had the jewel.
Yeah, the magic healed everyone, including Nunchuck.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like this weird like loss of time too, like some kind of alien abduction thing.
Yeah, it does a bit of a time skip. Another comment of like this, why do we have a 2-seater?
Yeah, a duffel bag full of clothes because now we need to stop running around in our Joe gear.
Yeah, doing military operations in a foreign country is usually frowned on.
Not a good idea. No.
And then Storm Shadow is Yoda.
Yeah, this
He's
we get a
hiding
little
it on Mount Fuji.
get a little mystical here, but we get to see the full power of the medallion. Apparently, you can tear
make the
apart
Earth look like a bundt cake pan.
Yeah. But his real intention is to hide the medallion so the power can never be used by anybody.
Yeah,
Proving
because power
that he-
corrupts. Storm Shadow
Yes.
knows.
proving that he's not a bad guy. He knows it's his clan's responsibility to keep this thing hidden. And trees grow over, and he talks about how it'll be a hidden magical place now. And that's our story. So we got the conclusion of like the medallion thing, but we set up so many other like
Yeah, what's
story
going on with the
threads.
Dreadnoks in Chicago and Heavy Duty getting captured on purpose?
Yeah, and just in general, like I got to like the third act of the book, I guess, and I knew this was the only volume, and it started bumming me out. I was
Yeah.
like, all right, they're just setting things up. I'm ready for more, but I know this is all there is. And in some weird way, like the book ended leaving me wanting more, but that's the negative because I know there is no more.
I mean, it wasn't a cliffhanger, but there was stuff set up with no payoff. But the actual the storyline did complete.
Yeah, it does have a self-contained adventure, so you can't say like, oh, it was a cliffhanger and now I'm mad because I don't know what happens. You do know what happens, but there's a lot more that could be done. And I wish there was. Like I really enjoyed once they got rolling, I really enjoyed this story quite a bit. And I was
the only place was that him doing the dance to open the lock thing was a little overdone. But the art is very uneven. The faces are goofy looking, but the backgrounds are amazing. And the throwback, the like historical stuff when they go do like they show the historical stuff, that's really good.
Yeah, and the artwork got amped up there a bit too, where it's like a different style and there's a lot more line work and stuff going on in there.
Yep. Like a lot of detail in the backgrounds that I wouldn't expect in something like this.
Yeah, so that is our flip through of Arashikage Showdown. So we're going to give some closing thoughts and give some ratings on it. I mentioned, I think we both mentioned that it was at time confusing to see which character was which. And, if it was in color, I don't think that problem exists at all. So that was a little annoying sometimes, but not a big deal. And then the big bummer of this being volume 1 and only 1, in some weird way, like I just mentioned, the book left me wanting more, and that's a bad thing because there is no more. We're normally,
and there never will be.
Right.
I assume that this company's defunct now.
They're still around. They're not. I think they do mostly like Kickstarter and like direct type stuff. But Josh Blaylock is still producing and writing books still, I believe. But there is always the horribly unlikely chance that the new publisher of GI Joe decides to do a manga, but I really don't see it happening.
I wouldn't, maybe, because I've seen like the Marvel stuff, like there's the Deadpool manga that's gotten some traction. So maybe, walk into any Barnes and Noble and look at the section of graphic novels from the West. You get 2 shelves, and manga is like 30 shelves.
No, I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I just think like someone being brave enough to go that route is probably unlikely. I could definitely see more volumes of the Ninja story, and I think you can go out and do some other interesting things with a manga style like story. You can do like Tiger Force could have their special thing, or you can do the LERP unit from Vietnam and have them do like war stories. I don't know how popular that is in mangas, but I think it would work in this format quite well. Other than,
well, if you want to be very popular, what you would write for a manga would be Storm Shadow, Snake Eyes, Boy Love.
Yeah,
that's what sells.
Yeah, that might be a bit of a stretch for a lot of Joe fans, but
yeah. Well, I think if you do it in a manga, you're not looking for Joe fans. You're looking for new fans at that point.
Yeah, but I think,
although I if they released a manga of GI Joe with kind of like straight up, this is just straight up action. There's no bullshit. They're not eating brunch. They're not talking about social issues. They're ninjas fighting other ninjas. That's all you need.
Yeah. So overall, there's definitely some things that I wish were different, but if I would have bought this new when it came out, I think I would have been super psyched and constantly.
You'd find out where's the next one. Where's the next one?
Yeah. So my rating may seem a little harsh. I think I'm going to tend to be a little harder. So the ratings on the channel, for your benefit, I want to compare the ratings for this book compared to other GI Joe literature. Not the greatest piece of literature ever written. But out of 5, I'm going to give this book a 3.5. I did really enjoy it and had a lot of fun, but there's a lot of things I wish were a little bit better.
I'd also give it a 3.5, but for different reasons. I think my biggest beef, because it didn't end on a cliffhanger, I'm not as upset. But the unevenness of the art, because some of the art is really, really good. The cover's amazing. I love the cover.
Yeah,
the backgrounds are amazing. The level of detail in some of the panels is almost weird how detailed it is compared to others. Yeah. So I think it's the unevenness of the art that did it more. And like you said, confusing the characters. If they don't look distinct enough in black and white, color makes sense.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting too to know
who did what,
which artist was actually responsible for what, and how that played out. But yeah, I think it was for 2005, it was probably a pretty bold move to release it, so that was pretty cool. But,
and $10 for a relatively short manga is a pretty bold price point for 2005.
Yeah, I don't know what was up with that. I'm sure
there's any shonen, which is the most popular type of manga, action manga, are like typically $9.99.
And maybe licensing fees coming off the top of that affected the price as well. But it is shorter, so you would think it could be cheaper. But
then you see where sometimes they spent too much money on things that probably they shouldn't have, like some of the art and the paper quality.
Yeah, but I appreciate it.
This is 2005, and there's no yellowing on it.
Yeah, right.
I have manga that's like a year old that's got yellowing in it because it's using pulpy ass pulp paper.
Well, and I have always heard, I don't know, that mangas are very like a disposable commodity.
Yes.
Like you read it and then you.
Like comics used to be.
Yeah.
But you know what? As it's come into the American market, there's now more and more collector's editions, hardcovers, deluxe color renditions and stuff. So it's getting to the point where there are people, especially in the West, that collect it. Whereas in Japan, it's just like, I'm done with it, it goes in the trash.
Yeah, well, that is Arashikage Showdown. I think we have talked about it about as much as we can. It's not that long of a story, but we did the flip through, we did the review. Thank you for being on again. I really appreciate your manga expertise. And definitely, if you made it this far in the video, like, subscribe to this one, and go check out French Toast Chopsticks, Brian's YouTube channel, which will be linked down below. And thank you for watching.